Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With us today is Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you today.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you today?
Doing well, doing well.
Good. Warm enough for you here?
Oh, yes. Pretty soon summer weather will be here. We can swim outdoors.
Yeah, exactly.
But today we're going to start off by talking about one of my least favorite politicians.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if he qualifies as a politician. He's a troublemaker. And that is former Senator John Kerry. And I know a lot about him because I remember he made himself a name way back during the Vietnam era by taking an anti-war stand because he was awarded a few medals for who knows what. And he was very much in favor, but his excuse, he was just a kid then. He didn't know much about it, and there was a little bit to that. So he went to the White House lawn, threw his medals over the fence with the others. And I thought, boy, now that guy really is a believer. But after that, it was downhill. I always kid, but seriously say, John Kerry peaked.
Yeah.
He peaked back there when he was, I think he was 21 years old when he did that. But now he's still around, and he's in all kinds of war. He's against the war on those people who say there's no climate change, this sort of thing. He's a radical environmentalist, and he's a doctor now. He knows what best viruses should be treated, and that there is no natural immunity, that sort of thing. That's what he's been up to. But this week, he was out visiting, and he made a statement, or a French journalist decided to make a statement. He said, he asked a senator, why isn't Bush judged the same way? Because Kerry said that why is Putin getting blamed for starting all this trouble? And turns out when you look at history, both sides probably has some faults, but the real starting of this war and the perpetuation of this war, unfortunately, we're no more on the right side of this one than we were in the Vietnam War, or the Middle Eastern wars that Bush engaged us in. So basically, one thing that I think would be safe to say that even if an illegal war goes well, it's not a good war. Let's say the outcome was different, but if they go to war when it's undeclared, but more likely though, when we're maneuvered into war by the military-industrial complex and the warmongers and the hawks, the more likely it's going to go badly, because the people really aren't behind it. And we've seen a few of those just in this century, in the past 20 years that's happened. And it continues to go on. But he didn't let the journalists get ahead, and that's what his comeback was. Why do you treat us differently? Why can't we judge Bush for and Biden, we might talk about that. Biden had his excuse why that was different.
Yeah, I mean, Biden is one of the most annoying busybodies and hecklers on earth. He's President Biden's. Kerry is. Sorry, Kerry is one of the most annoying. Biden is too. That's a different story. One of the most annoying busybodies on earth. He's Biden's special envoy for climate change, right? So he rolls around the world in his big private jet, spewing out carbon or whatever they spew, killing the whales, and lecturing the rest of us about how we better stay inside and eat bugs. That's what he does for a living. But before that, of course, he was a Secretary of State who presided over some of the most aggressive U.S. foreign policy actions in history, the most unjustified foreign policy actions in history, including unleashing jihadists in Syria to overthrow that government, unleashing jihadists in Libya to destroy that country, and turn it into a slave market. So, so Biden sends him over to get everyone really mad and fuming about that evil Putin invaded another country who didn't invade him first. And as you say, this one French journalist just said, but what about you guys? We chose this story because we talk about it a lot. They're just incapable. Someone like Kerry, the look on his face, they're incapable of judging anyone else in their own shoes. I think you talk about people being sociopaths. Yeah. I think he'd be a good example.
Well, the reporter, the journalist, retorted him. He says, yes, we do have to judge Putin for crimes of aggression, of course. But you, the Americans, you committed the crime of aggression in Iraq. And I think that caught Kerry off guard. So Kerry sort of lost the argument after that, even though he did come up with a few statements that didn't help him out in any way, I could see.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's put up that first clip because we noticed on Zero Hedge, but it's all over Twitter. Everyone is playing it on Twitter, and it's very funny in a weird way, yeah. But to the next one now, our good friend Glenn Greenwald, he had something that he wrote about, and I apologize for the small print here. But here's how Greenwald put it. John Kerry is on a tour flamboyantly depicting Russia as a rogue state for invading a sovereign country, only for French journalist Darius Rochebin to remind him the U.S. has invaded multiple countries, and Kerry himself voted to authorize the Iraq War. And I'm not going to play the clip because it's in French and it might be difficult for those that are just listening. But as you say, it's hilarious. The journalist says, yeah, we should definitely judge Putin for what he's done. But didn't you guys do the same thing? These countries of the global south say, shouldn't we judge George Bush? Why isn't Bush judged the same way? And Kerry says, no. And he has that look on his face that you can see right there. No. Why? And then he goes into this word salad. Yeah, you read it too. Well, because there's never been a direct process. There's never been an accusation. There's never been, and then so the journalist writes back, well, is it not a crime of aggression to enter Iraq on the basis of a lie? He said, well, we didn't know it was a lie. We didn't know it was a lie at the time. Besides, I was against the war, even though he voted for the war.
Oh, the bigger lie now comes up. Well, it wasn't a war of aggression. We didn't go over there with any aggression. How many miles did we go? 6,000, 7,000 miles? Spent billions and billions of dollars, killed millions of people. No sign of aggression there. So, but I guess we'll have to send him back. And if he wants a war, now it'll be a war on weather, and he's going to make sure that the climate is the method of controlling the world rather than armaments, I guess.
It just says something about the insularity of the U.S. foreign policy establishment. They could never even conceive that they would ever be challenged anywhere. Everywhere they go, they expect a sycophantic audience. Oh yes, Washington, tell us what to do. What should we do? And I mean, I think there's nowhere is it more evident than that look on Kerry's face when someone said, but hang on a minute, what about you guys? And it just completely caught him by surprise because it literally never happens. Nobody in the press briefings asked tough questions of Biden. Of course, that would be tough. But even of his spokespersons, nobody challenged him. Very few people ever challenge him. They're just never used to this happening. And so when it does, and that's why we're talking about it today, it's so rare, but it shows the sort of intellectual Potemkin village that Washington has. There's no thinking there. There's no strategy. There's no realistic view of the world. It's just all bluff and bluster. And when the bluster is called, the bluff is called, they fall apart like a house of cards.
Well, whether it was Vietnam-based war, based on war, a lie, and then Kerry said, well, he voted for it, and we went into war, but it was based on a lie, and we didn't know, and so we're innocent. But all they have to do is go one step back in what leads up to war, and they could say, well, they all lied because he took an oath of office. Yeah. We're not going to have war unless there's a declaration of war. And they always support it. And so the guidelines and the preventions out there, because this was a big issue for the founders, trying to stay out of wars. And I think these overseas things would be considered out of our realm of responsibilities, and but when you're the protector of the world and you have your empire, we have to take care of the world. So I think that it could be stopped, it's prevented because we weren't made to be the dictator of the world, but that has happened, but it won't last a whole lot longer. Okay. So then maybe some good will come of that.
And Kerry's final word, as you say, sir, I'm not going to re-debate the Iraq War with you right now.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. Don't you dare criticize us. Well, we want to move on to our friend Jonathan Turley.
Yeah.
But first, I do want to talk about our sponsor today, and that is our friends at Field of Greens. And I'm going to have a slurp before we talk about it. This is wild berry, and I have it in a solution of whole 100% grass-fed organic milk. I drink it in the morning, and I literally don't feel hungry all day because it's not a supplement. It's real 100% food, but it's not just food, it's superfood. And the reason why the Field of Greens people have developed this because the CDC and other government agencies and doctors have determined that you need 6 cups of fruit and veggies a day. I like fruit and vegetables myself, but I don't eat 6 cups of them a day. And so the people at Field of Greens have developed this, and it's not only to get your fruits and vegetables, but they're specifically targeted to things like heart health, liver and kidney health, immune system, and metabolism. So it does help you stay healthy. It works fast. You'll feel healthier, more energy. Your skin and hair will look healthier. I'm not sure that I look better, but I can tell you one thing. From the first time I finished a drink of this, I felt absolutely satisfied and energized for the whole day. So they also have a better health promise. If you take this, like I'm doing, and go to your next doctor visit, if the doctor doesn't say something like, whatever you're doing, it's working, keep it up, you can return it to the Field of Greens for a full refund. The best thing is you can get started with 15% off your first order and get another 10% off when you subscribe. Go to fieldofgreens.com and use promo code RON. I'll put it in the description, Field of Greens, promo code RON. And Dr. Paul, we are going to talk about Jonathan Turley because he has been all over this Attorney General thing.
Yes, he's our friend, and he is thorough, and he's very constitutionally oriented, and I think he is not hesitant, and he, like a gentleman, points out, when the Republicans are going astray too. So he's been a good resource for information, but he is discussing right now the released transcripts that the Ways and Means Committee released, and the big thing is it looks like there were people warning about the Hunter scandal and that they were getting information that said that why aren't you pursuing this? Why aren't you pursuing this? And it turns out that they've had testimony now, and they contradict each other. So Jonathan said, oh, well, just stick both of them in there. Let them figure it out, talk to them. But it needs investigating, because the result of what they did and being able to stop that investigation, and that's been going on. How long have the Bidens been in the business of making money on the side?
A lot.
A couple years and a couple dollars.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're right. On last Thursday, the Ways and Means released the transcripts. And the thing is funny, is the crickets in the mainstream media, right? No one reported on them. But Turley had a couple of good articles. We can go to the next clip. This is from an interview he did, I believe, on Fox. Somebody's lying. Jonathan Turley says Congress should start bringing people in for answers in the Biden probe. And we're not going to go into the finer details because that's not really our job here, Dr. Paul. But as you know, the point is you had whistleblowers and you had Merrick Garland and you had the U.S. Attorney David Weiss. Now, Garland claimed that Weiss had full authority to investigate Hunter Biden to the extent that he wanted to. There was no restraints. Well, the whistleblowers had a different story, which was that at every turn they were prevented from taking a true investigation. What the heck is going on? Where are these millions of dollars going into the Biden various bank accounts? Where are they coming from, and what's it being paid for? So either Merrick Garland is lying or the whistleblowers are lying. And actually, he has an article where he says that Jonathan Turley does. So he's saying, hey, wake up, Congress, especially the House. You have the authority. You can subpoena people. You can focus their minds on telling the truth under oath. Why aren't you doing it?
I mentioned this the other day, but it's so ridiculous that the left was criticizing the Republicans because of the sweetheart deal. And they say, sweetheart deal. Oh yeah, they were accused of doing these minor little things with drugs and guns, and they got excused from it. And so therefore, the excuse from it was the sweetheart deal. Well, the whole thing is the sweetheart deal was 10% or 5% of the whole deal. Yeah. And the sweetheart was they got rid of all the dangerous things and all this money issue that they're talking about now. They weren't even allowed to look into this. So, and they have a lot of nerve to turn around and say, oh, that's a sweetheart deal because of them avoiding the big charges. So,
yeah, it's amazing. But I think anyone would want to know, did Merrick Garland and the Justice Department prevent his own attorneys, his own U.S. attorneys, from pursuing felony charges? And like you say, that's why he got the sweetheart deal. Did they prevent them? Now, he claimed that he didn't. Merrick Garland does. But the evidence suggests that he did. And so that is the big question. And if we can go ahead a little bit, actually, we're gonna skip to the different accounts. Let's go ahead one. Here's his piece on his own website, Who's Lying, Garland or the Whistleblowers? That's definitely worth a read if you go to jonathanturley.org. But go to the next one. This is sort of a summary of what he said. This is what he said on Fox. He said, the different accounts we've heard about what happened in the investigation cannot be reconciled. Somebody's lying, and there's a real criminal and impeachable conduct that could be raised. And that means Congress's power is at its apex. And they can move forward, and it needs to move forward, and it has a full array of powers to do that with. And here's Turley, the constitutionalist and constitutional law. This is an area where Congress has authority, and it's at its full apex. Why aren't you using it?
Well, if it's a scenario about the arbitrariness of the Department of Justice, if there's a group of people in government representing the coup that has gone on, and they control the Department of Justice, and the FBI and the CIA and all this other stuff, and war, I mean, it's over in many ways, but what we're trying to do, hopefully wake up enough people to realize, what's really going on, and this is part of it, and I think Jonathan really hones in on the real importance of the significance to the Congress. The Congress becomes moot, all of a sudden, not doing the things they should do and doing all the things they shouldn't be doing, Yeah. But I don't know. It's just hard to figure because it's easy to say, oh, the Republicans, they never follow through. But they have followed through on a couple things, and this stuff is coming out. So I think the difference is public pressure. I think that makes a big difference. They're politicians. They have less appeal to the Constitution and what's right and wrong than they are to their re-election period. So if enough people comes out, and that's why these demonstrations against this radical wokism, I think, is the only tool that we have now to combat them.
Absolutely. And the tax thing, I think we would say the tax thing and the gun thing is pretty small potatoes because, we read about it. There's this whole thing on his laptop, which now they have not contested that it's his. There's this WhatsApp message where Hunter Biden is writing to his Chinese interlocutor, his business partner in China, and he's saying, hey, my dad's sitting here in the room. Where's the money? Right? My dad's going to get really mad, and he keeps a grudge, so send us the money. And apparently a few days later, $5 million appeared in one of their accounts. Maybe there's a very justifiable explanation for all this, but you can't say like, aha, here's your tax evasion, and then over here, well, don't look over there, this is nothing.
The big question is, now that they're looking at it, everybody was tuned into the last 5 to 10 years on what was really going on, especially since 16. And that now the question is when did this all start? When was the beginning of the advantages and benefits that the Bidens had been getting over these years? Yeah. And some suggest it's not a couple years, it's maybe a couple decades, and maybe more than a couple million. But that remains to be seen. That would be a good little chore for the Republicans to really dig it out, but we'll have to wait and see.
But, I don't know how you feel about this. I just wonder if some of the Democrats aren't also secretly pushing this because he's not in his prime. Even when he was in his prime, he was no great shakes. But, I would think there are some Dems are looking at people like Gavin Newsom, some people with some more energy, and I don't think he's charismatic, but a lot of people do.
The other thing that fits that argument is that Harris is not very popular. And it's being recorded by votes that are saying, we did this poll and this poll. And it isn't that she's just unpopular. She's the most unpopular vice president we ever had.
Yeah. So, bring back Sparrow Avenue.
But the whole thing is, you know, as a Republican, if you just say you don't want to hit hard on the president, he's a little innocent and he's not feeling well.
Yeah.
Why don't they just put her picture up there giggling and say, well, is this what you really
Here's
want?
your option. Yeah.
I'd put her picture up and a picture of the homeless in San Francisco before and after.
Yeah.
And saying, this is what you guys want, there it is, vote for it.
Yeah, they're in a bind. So they may be pushing him over too, pushing him under the bus. Who knows? Well, the last little thing we want to talk about is something you noticed on Zero Hedge. And we've talked about it a lot. And but it's disturbing. Let's put this next one on. There was a Pride March, a drag queen parade over the weekend in New York. So go forward a little bit if you can. Let me see. One more. There we go. So Pride marchers take to New York City chanting, "We're coming for your children." Now that used to be called a conspiracy theorist, Dr. Paul, if you suggested that there was some sort of strange agenda involving children on this. And obviously, it's none of our business what people do in the privacy of their home, but when you come for people's children, it does have a different flair about it. And so here they are, and I'm not going to play the clip because I looked at it for a second, and there are people that are dressed in a way that's inappropriate for a family show, but they were walking down the street in New York City saying, "We're coming for your kids."
You know, that can't be a better thing for them to do to excite a lot more Christian conservatives, I'll tell you, because people have been shouting and saying that, you know, they're anti-family, and they are, but they're not. They wear that as a badge of honor. We stood up, you know, for the family and this voluntarism and all the wonderful things the far left offers. So that is, you know, it goes along with the argument that by that radical right-wing people. Oh, they're about transgenderism. They're right-wing fanatics. They hate the family. They hate the church. They hate morality, and they're sort of getting the answer right there. You have to think, well, maybe some of those charges are true, but to me it reflects this whole idea without standards anything goes, and they don't have a moral base to what should be the basis of a society, and they go and they say, well, we don't know the truth, and they're nihilistic, and so anything goes. So you can't work on the idea of stemming the tide of this by being reasoning on a moral basis and on the basis of using violence to bring about their society, because they're totally deaf to those issues. But the big thing is that they get a lot of attention, and I say, boy, they are really getting powerful, but they're not that powerful. Their percentages for people who believe this wokism, radical wokism, it's amazing. It's the people in the left-wing radicalism, but it's also the money behind this. Wokism is part of the corporate system, so it comes together with the movement of Marxism and cultural Marxism, because there's a lot of cultural things in here, and there's a lot of finance in here. There's a lot of appropriations and wars and all these things. So we need to get that defined so the American people know what they ought to be doing, because right now it's not a good sign for what America will be like in the next few years.
Yeah. And I was just writing down cultural Marxism just before you said it, so we have a mind meld going. But, you know, there are plenty of very prominent gay folks, gay leaders on the left and the right who are very, very verbally opposed to what's happening. I think about people like Dave Rubin, Glenn Greenwald, and others, people that we know. They say, we don't want any part of this. You know, our lifestyle is not about this. And so I think it's not a liberation movement in the sense of your personal preferences and behaviors, but as you say, it's a cultural Marxist movement, and they're using the gay community, I think, to push an agenda that can actually be very harmful to them, because it can provoke a backlash, a general backlash against all people, for that sort of lifestyle. So it's pretty dangerous. And here I'm going to play just a quick clip of the song. This is from a couple of years ago, but this kind of set things off. We're starting at 24 seconds. Let's just play up to 50 seconds where they almost take delight and enjoy the idea that we're going to come get your kids. If we can cue that video up. I don't know if we have. There we go. Yeah, go ahead and just click play there.
Think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked.
We full screen that, please.
Just this once, you're correct. We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. We'll convert your children.
We can probably take it down now.
We'll make them tolerate.
So that's, they took down this video because it was viewed as being too controversial. But it's almost like when they secretly tell the truth out loud, you know. So yeah.
Okay. Do you have any more points there? Because I'm going to make one more point on these, the Pride marchers.
No, go ahead, and then I'll close when you're done.
Okay. The thing here is it brings to mind my argument that freedom is designed to bring people together. And once they understand this, whether they have, well, I think you alluded to that because people have different sexual behaviors, but they're nonviolence.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they have to understand. You can be diverse. That's the wonderful thing of libertarianism. Diversity isn't a problem. It is not a job of the government to use force to make people diverse. So you have a few people. You know, this radical genderism can be handled, especially if they would recognize that taking little kids and mutilating them isn't part of what freedom is all about. That is mutilation and it's violence and taking care of kids who can't even think for themselves. But I am convinced that people come together. So people who have different economic theories, if they have different social theories, they have different religious beliefs, why can't you do it? And the only thing that people have to remember is just say that both sides of the argument, both sides of the transactions, everything that we do, both sides should agree to it. If not, just walk away.
Yeah.
And yet here it's going on. They're doing the opposite. They have 3% or 2% or 1% of the population that are gone nuts. And they're, in defense of liberty, are able to coerce business people and a lot of other people. Oh, yeah, I don't agree with them, but they have their rights, you know. But they don't have the right to destroy the liberty and get that liberty they want for the minority by taking it away from the majority is what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's a shame. That's why I think they should think more. People should think more seriously about, you know, following the rules of libertarianism and freedom and independent liberty, and the world would be a lot better off.
Live and let live, but don't hurt people. Right?
There you go.
Well, I'm going to close, but I do want to remind everyone of our sponsor for June, and that's Patriots.com. Listen, guys, we cannot count on the power grid. We're going to learn that pretty quick if we keep getting this Texas heat, and certainly in hurricane season down here, but there's bad weather everywhere. People at 4Patriots.com know that the best thing to have is a solar generator. They are offering the Patriot Power Generator, and they're offering it to viewers of the Ron Paul Liberty Report at a 10% discount. And not just this, but anything in their store, 4Patriots.com. I will put a link in the description, but use a code word RON if you're interested in survival food, generators, and tons of great stuff. They have $97 minimum for a free delivery, and a portion of their sales is given to veterans charities. I will put a link in, 4Patriots.com, code word RON. My final comment, if we can go to the last link, and I apologize for the delay in getting this up, but I hope you will turn right away to your computer. If you do that very last clip, please. We finally got the tickets on sale for our Ooh, no, that's not it.
Get rid of that.
That's not our conference. The very last clip.
Oh, boy.
Very last. Yeah, there we go. There we go. There we go. All right, thanks. Yes, the tickets are on sale now for the September 2nd Ron Paul Institute Conference in D.C. This is our 7th D.C. conference. I'll put a link in the description as well for this. Which Way America? We've got some serious discussions and decisions to make on the future of this country, and we're putting together a diverse group of very informative and controversial thinkers to talk about which way America. September 2nd, Washington, D.C. Go to ronpaulinstitute.org, and you can't miss it. It's in the upper right-hand section. So click. We've got early bird tickets available through the month of July. We're keeping the ticket price down, even though inflation is killing us, because we want you there. We want to visit with you. So get it right away. Get those early bird tickets and save a couple of bucks and come see us in September. Dr. Paul?
Very good. And I want to follow up on that because it's very important that we find out if we're on the right track, and that depends on what your reaction is. So we would like to hear back from you, and one big thing you could do to help is spread the message. Get more people to watch our show and get more people to come to our conferences. That's the best way we can spread this message, and it'll be a reflection on how we're doing also. And so far we're pleased, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of room for growth for all of us, because that was one of the things that Leonard Reed had taught me a long time ago, is that you pursue it and you don't look at the numbers as much as your job is to know and understand and stick to your guns, and eventually truth will win out. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.